this stage of the painting, you can really see where it's going. And that's what you want out of a block in. It's not a finished painting. It looks like at best a sketch, but I just want to take note of the important gradients and variations that we already have in the sky. We'll focus on the sky. The land, same principles apply, but we'll get into that more when we finish the painting down there. But from right to left, the lights on the clouds are getting darker because the sun is over here. From right to left, the lights or the blue of the sky is getting darker and cooler because the sun is over here, right? So we have that gradient of color and value across the painting this way. Also, the shadows of the clouds are lighter and warmer on this side of the sky and darker and cooler on this side of the sky because it's moving away from the sun. All that has to do with the sun. Also, there's a gradient from darker blues to warmer, almost greens down near the horizon. So we come down from the zenith, which is up higher than we can see in this picture, but the higher parts of the sky, the blue, get warmer and lighter as they come down toward the horizon. So that's another gradient that we have there. Also, the darks, the shadows in the clouds, as they go back in space, as they recede, they get almost the same value as the sky and quite sort of a purple gray. The whites, as they recede and go away from us, get darker and warmer. So the closer the white to us, the lighter and cooler. The farther it is, the darker and warmer it is going back into space there. And those subtleties mean that it already is reading like clouds. It's already reading like depth. But of course, there are some outlines and there's some browns and heavy darks in there that need to go. So the first question that we asked to get to this level, a complete block in, is what's easiest to see next? And we just kept painting one shape after another, asking that question. What's the easiest thing to see next? Now it's time to say what bothers me the most. And the thing that bothers me the most is certainly right here. It's dreadful, right? This sort of, well, I don't know what that is, but we're going to get rid of it. So now it's time to just start rendering. Okay, and I think the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the palette and I'm going to take and remove this color. And clean off this spot, some mineral spirits too. Why? Because I'm going to be working in the sky and I just don't want any of my sky mixtures to get muddied by anything that I've used in the land there. And so I'm going to take titanium and a little bit of gold ochre right here. That was how we made that number 10 value. Do you remember? I'm going to take it with my palette knife and I am going to, looking at the intensity and the strength of those clouds and the lights on them, and I'm just going to come across with that. And we are going to get that really intense, beautiful light all the way through here. Now, in doing that, I lost the blue, right? I lost my blue in the sky. That's totally fine. We'll get it back. So I'm going to mix with my number 2 brush now. I'm going to mix titanium and ultramarine and just a tap of pyrrole. So we have a really high key purple, very light value. So the sky is warmer, but it's going to be a little bit darker than that white that I just put in. And I used it all up. We don't even have it anymore. But let's put that in. Here we go. And I'm just going to gently place it in, mostly focused on getting the mostly focused on getting the shape of these little holes that we can see in those billowing clouds, and also the softness, right? I'm really gently putting it in up here. There we go. That looks a lot more
And
like that really
what is
intense
that
light.
blue? What's that color?
Ultramarine and pyrrole. Ultramarine and pyrrole right there. You can see how ultramarine shows up almost everywhere. It's such a good blue to have. Okay, I'm gonna remix and just replace a little bit of that lightest light of the clouds right there, gold ochre and white. And I'm just going to put a stroke of it here, try to soften down right through there. Dry brush. Okay, and that gives me room for a much sharper edge. I'm just looking into the painting and or the source photo, and right in here, do you see how we have all those wispy parts that we just painted, but then we come down to the top of a really, solid looking cloud. Let's get that. So I'm taking my ultramarine and pyrrole mixture of the sky that's right up against where the sun is. That's a value that's right about a number 8. So it's a very light value. And I'm just going to create a sharper edge right there. Smooth it out with a palette knife, or parts of it out with a palette knife. There we go. Just a little tiny bit darker, a little bit more ultramarine. We do those little dabs right through here. Then it just kind of loses itself into the gray in there. And it just disappears. Okay, so that was what was bothering me the most. And the thing that was bothering was the thing that was bothering was that outline, that harsh line. Needed to cover it up, so I needed a lot more paint. Um, and also, because we're on the very light side of the painting, I think a lot more paint. I think a lot more paint is fitting over here because it's in the light, right? So get some more volume, and do that same thing right through there with these shapes in here, just restating them. We put them in to hold that part of the painting, and now I'm just really fixing the texture a little bit. Let's make that a really soft edge too.
Tim, would you ever do your placement for your clouds in like maybe a dark gray or a violet instead of the transparent oxide? Because that's really hard to get out.
So the thing that the transparent oxide gives us though is just that beautiful translucent warmth coming from behind the clouds. I would be afraid if I did it with blue, then the whole painting would just be kind of cold.
Oh,
That
okay.
makes
That makes sense.
sense.
All right.
Yeah, good question. But yeah, and experimenting with that sort of thing, warmth behind clouds tends to give you that light-filled volume of clouds really effectively. Okay. Oop, too dark. This is a remix of the ultramarine transparent oxide red mixture that was so um, key to the whole first part of this painting. I'm just bringing it back in, but it's a little bit dark. We need a value number 7 that looks more like a 6. So here I am on the palette, just bringing in a lot more white to that mixture, transparent oxide red and ultramarine. This will probably be better. And this, it is nice to just push these in, because as I push them in, we're getting a lot more of that warmth from the undertone. And it just, again, it makes it look like that lampshade of a cloud that is just full of light. Lots of little strokes over there. And a back and forth between the um, blue of the sky and the gray of the clouds. And this is where, that edge, right? It's that billowing, breaking edge of the cloud, a lot easier to paint in with some thicker paint, right? So we had all those really thin, scumbly things before, and they did their job. They worked, but now we're looking for those much softer edges, and it's a lot easier to get with some thicker paint. See that? There we go. Just going to continue leaving thinner parts and thicker parts through here to go back. All right. And something that we didn't get in here is um, there's a light right in there. It's farther away. So I'm just going to use the gold ochre, ultramarine, and white that I still have down there. And that's kind of peeking through behind these clouds, just another part in the light, and just gently sort of dry brushing it in. Don't want to put it in too much so that it kind of takes over, but we've just got kind of a break in the clouds there where we've got more light on that higher cloud. And again, just a nice softness in here. What am I doing? I'm really just addressing the edges and the textures that are really going to make this cloud come out more. Right in the center of that cloud, I think it needs to be a little bit darker. It's gotten a little bit light. Right through here. That cloud is a mass, and right in the center, it's just blocking the light a little bit more than I have it. See how that little touch, it's just a really subtle thing, but that really makes it look like a cloud again. All right, I'm going to take my glare removal brush here and just do a little bit of that. So hopefully the sort of energy of the stroke stays, but not the bright sort of flashy glare. And right through here, just another shape that we need. It's getting darker right through here as we can see kind of the depths of that cloud right there, right before there's another cloud in front of it overlapping it. And that's all farthest away in our picture from the sun, so darker parts here. That's that underneath lip cloud. And all that together. Okay, so subtlety and soft edges, really important to bringing it together, right? And that's sort of key to what I'm doing right now. Palette knife to add a little bit more interest along that edge. It's a good way to soften it and still keep that sort of broken look of a cloud, broken sort of fragmenting edges there. Restick that one right there. A lot of sunlight on there. Okay, and this, just what bothers me most now, I'm just seeing no shadows. There's lots of little interesting darker it's gradients to these, but there are edges that are just darker through here that are really going to give that sort of underneath of those clouds as they go away from our perspective that I'm not seeing right now. So that'll be next. Ask the question, what bothers me most? And it's right here. This was, I thought it was great, and now it's really not. It just needs, there's a shadow right in here. This is ultramarine and transparent oxide red, that same gray, but that cloud is going into shadow right there. And you can be a little bit darker right in there, maybe even a little bit warmer. These clouds that are close to the land do end up actually reflecting some of the color of the land too. We can get that sort of warm cast up, especially in here. There's under rims of the cloud there. And let me get the glare out so you can actually see that. It's hard to see. There, you can see those little sort of faint darks in there. And there are more of them in here too, just individual clouds. And I'm scumbling up so I can get those little firm edges on the lower, and then as they go up, they get a little bit darker.
I have
There
a
we go.
question, Tim. This is
Yeah, go
Joy.
ahead.
My question is, with sunsets that have a lot of color in the clouds, is it pretty much the same principles we're learning now in building up the cloud as it would be with the colors, or is there any kind of a different technique that you would need to use?
No different technique. You would just be seeing the closer you get to the sun, the more intense those colors would be, and the farther you get away from the sun, the less intense. And that's how
Okay.
you'll get that lifelike feeling to the light.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good question. And what am I doing here? I'm just rendering out some of these shapes a little bit more, just a little bit more drawing to give us these clouds. All right, so see how that takes shape, that takes form, and that's just looking at the source, right? So I'm not really inventing anything there, but as these clouds, the planes face really away from the light, they're just getting a little bit darker. Okay. A little bit warmer, a little bit lighter. Needs to be a little bit lighter still. Right in here, and we get the softness, right? So this was your question, Carol. You know, I wanted a softer edge there, and just the sort of trying to drag out those colors wasn't working. So I just have to mix another color and then work it into the wet, and then we have that wet into wet edge right there. But also around it, there's lots of other really interesting textures too. Just a little bit too warm there. Add a little bit more white. Pull that back off. And then gently drag that together. Right in there, I can see some sky through. I'm going to put that in. But I'm going to use just this brush. I'm going to soften and drag those colors together. And then right in here, I can see more of that light coming down from here. And then right above it, I can see some sky. And then we go into the shadow again. So the sky, I'm just going to bring in a little bit of blue right there. That's not quite blue enough. Bring it in with the palette knife. There you go. I really liked how that worked out with the palette knife, so I'm going to do that a little bit more, especially right here. I've been trying to make that a really distinct edge. Why not just use a palette knife? Right. There we go. That's a more distinct edge now. And adds a little bit more texture to the sky. I don't want it to be distracting, but it is nice to have that extra interest in there. This can just come all the way back into here. Palette knife. And that was our cobalt and viridian mixture, right? There we go. And that leaves it looking pretty light. There we go. And that's nice. Okay. And then we have that glare, or not glare, but there's a glow underneath up in here. Palette knives are just great for painting skies because they have this sort of built-in mark that's these incidental little wispy strokes that really make clouds look convincing. There we go. So that looks a little bit better up there. All right, I'm stepping back and asking what bothers me the most. And you're all asking, why on earth hasn't he covered that up yet? Surely that's what, yeah, okay, I see it. I see it. That brown blotch in the sky. Just noticed it. That should go. All right, here we go. What will that go with? Let's mix. I need some more white. And I remember the blues all the way to the right were ultramarine and trans, well, not trans, Hyrule. Hyrule and ultramarine. I have a gray violet over here. A little bit too dark. More titanium. There we go. A bit more warmth through there too. A little bit of a shadow right through the center of this thing. There we go. That a little bit more believable. And also a stronger light underneath that thing. A little bit more of a glow right through there. A little bit cooler, kind of modeling that a little bit more right in there. And I think there would be just a little bit more of a glow right under here too. Just really close to that sun. Any glare removed there. Okay, so one thing that just is starting to stick out as bothering the most is the texture right over here. So I'm going to take that same mixture. I'm just going to move it a long way toward pyrrole. We're going to get pretty pink right in there. And I'm going to do something expected from the last session. We're going to do a little bit more broken color, warm and cool here. I'm going to show the direction of the sun and really refine this. I want some continuity between what we've already talked about and what we're doing right now. So here we go. Get some just little of those vertical strokes right in there, layering over the blue sky that's already there and kind of just fading out as they come away. That really puts a lot more of that glowing energy into the sky. Okay, how about down here? This is another mixture that is ultramarine and this case gold ochre. So it's ultramarine and gold ochre. This is ultramarine and pyrrole, ultramarine and gold ochre here together. I'm just going to move it towards that yellow, green, gold ochre. And I'm going to complement all those violets with just a little bit of this here. Load up my palette. Have to have enough paint on your, or load up your brush. You have to have enough paint on your brush so that you're not dragging and scraping and smearing with your brush. You want to just gently lay on these little additional colors. There we go. A little bit more glow right in there. And this is, because this is the main thing I wanted to show you, I really want it to look like the sun is shining right over here. And so I'm just working back in to amp up that sunlight just a little bit more. So how are we going to do that? I'm just going to clean my brush. I'm going to take a new mixture of titanium and gold ochre. And right here, particularly right here, you see how that just that was what it needed. The whole painting just sort of um, improved in that one piece there. We just needed a little bit more true number 10 value. And even these underplanes here, they're just exploding with light. So I'm going to work it in a little bit more, but it's still going to be that really light value right there. And perhaps as we come up from the lowest part of the horizon, a little bit darker in there. Okay, that feels like sunlight to me now, especially when you compare it now with the colors of the clouds going across to the right. Going to be a lot darker over there. More detail, some smaller shapes in there. Okay, so that's working pretty well. I do want to see just a bluer gray, so I'm on the palette here. It's still that transparent oxide red and ultramarine, just gonna lean it a little bit more towards the ultramarine and really blue gray that off. Here we go. And come over here, and just this cloud right here is starting to really bother me. It's not being quite distant enough a blue gray. We can just gently scumble and brush over that distant orange line back there. Remove it. And there's some more sky coming through right through here. So let's put that in nice and soft, kind of leaving those gaps in the undertone like we did in our big open sky painting. That works really well to get that vibration in the sky. It doesn't take center stage, the broken color. It doesn't take center stage like it does in a sky without clouds or with fewer clouds, but it still is really, really effective way to paint these things in here. And take my palette knife, and I'm scraping up this ultramarine gold ochre and white mixture here. And I'm just going to put it in right there. A nice sharp edge there. That's the center of interest on the painting. And those are some closer clouds that are just more drenched in the light of that sun coming from the right. Soften that edge. There we go. Soften that edge of their chin. The those. I think we could actually get just a little bit of shadow through some of those. That would look more believable. Okay. And one thing that's not, it just isn't helping my cause. This light up here, maybe it's there, but I feel like it's just a little bit too strong to be all the way away from the sun. So I'm just darkening that a little bit in there. Bring those shadows back in there. Yeah, that feels better already. And okay, so why did I do that? Just because this, I want the highlight or the intensity to be how the clouds as they get close to the sun are glowing. As they go away from the sun, they are progressively darker. So I'm even lightening this side of the shadow here, just to make sure that it feels like it's appropriate to be near the sun.
Tim, this feels like a really stupid question at this point, but as you're talking about the frame or the canvas, are the furthest clouds closer to the horizon line? And as you move up, like where you are now, those are the closest clouds?
Not a stupid question at all. In this case, yes, because they're all sort of the same sort of clouds. But you may have a scene where you have these towering thunderheads and then fragments of cumulus clouds that are much lower and darker and closer. So it really depends. And that's something, there's going to be a video resource kind of working through those different sorts of scenes, and how to compose them. Because it really, you have just all sorts of different clouds too that appear at all different um, altitudes. So that kind of complicates the answer. But just to come back to this painting that we're painting, in this case, yes, these clouds are closer, and the higher they are, the closer they are, the farther, the lower they are, the farther they are.
Okay, great. So is that cloud video going to be part of this class, or is it just a general thing that you're going to do?
Oh, part of this class.
Okay, oh, good. This is so confusing. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. And it's, the clouds in the sky are, a very complex thing, but once you know what to look for, it can be a lot less daunting to see the layers in the sky. All right, and I'm bringing a white right there that I can see.
Are you going to have another plein air challenge like you did? I didn't see it till it was the end. Next year, or
Next year. Yeah, next year.
about what
We
month?
had one
Oh, what month did it start?
probably October.
Oh, October.
We had one last October too.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay, just a few more of these little lines to show and delineate those clouds. And I'm just going to pull out any glare. And that one got a little bit brown right there. A little bit of brown pulled around. So just work that out. Okay. All right. And in the time that I have left, I'm going to be working on the land. But a few more touches before I switch. Let's see a darker blue up here, just to really show off that high part of the sky, cobalt and Viridian. But in this case, let's go more towards that cobalt and just be a cooler blue, less warm, and stronger, darker blue too. It's just looking a lot farther up into the sky. I'm pushing it a little bit there, but I want to be able to see that distinction. And if you squint at the source, those blues right in here are just a tiny bit darker than the cloud shadows next to them that are really full of light from all the reflected light in the scene. Okay. Okay. So again, the primary thing to see here are the gradients in the sky. That's what I really wanted to talk to you about. But this isn't really complete without some more work on the land. So let's get that in. starting with that mountain, which I think is a little bit too brown now that we have the whole thing blocked in. So I'm going to go bluer with that. And we'll just do a new mixture. Actually, let's just do this. Transparent, oxide red, and ultramarine. We're just going to stick with something we know here in the 11th hour. Ready to start work on that mountain.